Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back for another episode of Rise Up in Real Estate Season 8. This is episode 4. Number 4. Hello, Lawton. Hello, Ashley. Ashley's muted, so she's going to stay. I don't know why she's muted. Maybe she was, hi, come back to us. There you go.
Thanks.
Ashley, I was going to say a minute ago when we were working through all of our nonsense, thanks for helping in Vegas.
I had a blast.
That was crazy, huh?
Yes. And to me, that was one of my favorite R4s. I don't know what it was about it. Like last year for me fell a little flat. And this year, I loved everything about it.
Maybe it was because Lawton wasn't there. I'm not going to make any assumptions.
Lawton fired me a lot last year. This time I kept my job. So
it's true.
That's good. And actually, I'll say you look very relaxed. What's different today? Is your hair different? Something's different?
No, I'm brought back a little bit of Vegas crud, so I'm on extra cold medications. So maybe I'm just glowing with the head.
Nice. So this is going to be an interesting conversation for all of us. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make you more energetic or less energetic?
Yeah, it gives you a little kick for the day. You know, it'll fade around 3 o'clock. Don't ask me to answer anything difficult around 3, but you guys get me at my best right now.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for, I don't know if those of you that were here last week saw that we did this live stream from Vegas, which was exciting. Felt like a big time radio TV show. I tell Mandy almost all the time that I would, got 2 crushes out there now in the media world. One is my longtime crush that Ashley knows about, that does a late night show with Jimmy Fallon. And then the other one is newer, but still, man, I really wish if I could switch jobs with anyone, it would be this guy, Pat McAfee. It's just, so those, I kind of felt like that last week, even though, we didn't have a billion watchers like they do, but it was fun. And Lawton, you kind of held it down back at home. How was that? Was it harder than it looked?
No, I didn't really do anything, but we did have a lot of people watching. I just had to, when I got on, I just had to change my name from Young Tyler because I changed it to that so we could see that picture. And I almost joined with his face again, and then I would have had the wrong name. But no, it was good. We had a lot of people watching, it looked like.
Yeah, and that's interesting that Tyler Morton was our guest last week. And man, did y'all take anything away from that? Like every time I talk to that guy, I'm like, I'm so far behind. I feel like I told him a couple of days ago how much to get you to move here. Like I would just like for him to be here. Did y'all take anything away from that last week?
Yeah, definitely. What I kind of picked up on is that I need to get deeper into AI and get out of just the copy paste mode of its capabilities and really get into having it take care of tasks in the background that can happen while I get to do more face-to-face, handshake to handshake interaction with people. And right now it's just a ton of copy paste, use it for this, and then put it on this platform, use it for this, put it in this email. And Tyler's got it operating at a whole different level.
Yes. What about you, Lawton? Young Tyler, what did you take away from that?
Yeah, no, it was good. I loved how he said, like, I don't know if this is the exact wording, but imagine if the office or the agent down the street hired 10 MIT graduates. And it's just like it's a crazy thought, but then if you start looking at AI, it's not a crazy thought. Like you just do it. But I definitely have some notes. Same thing, like getting away from just copy and pasting. And I'm like borderline have created a transaction coordinator that does most of that stuff on AI. Obviously, I don't want it ever to do, client facing things, but I definitely took a lot out of it. And he's just so like chill about it. But some of the stuff he says is not chill.
Yeah, that's those are good words. But you should know, by the way, we're in coastal South Carolina. For those of you that are first time, and if you're on the first time or the 50th time, don't forget you can comment and you'll pop up on here, and we'll welcome you to the show. I see a bunch of you on there. We filmed that last Wednesday live, and then my editor took it and turned it into a podcast on Monday. I listened to the podcast, and it's pretty cool how she made it sound. So it sounds like a real professional thing. So you should listen to Tyler if you haven't. You can go to StreamYard or Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, wherever you want to go, Google Podcasts, you can find it. So we filmed this one today, and next Monday it'll be on the podcast. So in coastal South Carolina, I think I said this, and my two friends, Ashley and Lawton, Lawton is an active real estate agent, building his business in year 2. And then Ashley has been building agents' businesses for how long now? 5 or 6 years?
6 years.
6 years. And she was a tremendous agent before making this transition. So we are in the middle of a season that I'm excited about. A couple things I have to tell you guys that happened at R4. R4, by the way, is our international convention in Las Vegas. Because we have a few people on here from the Philippines watching, which is really crazy to me. It's 9 o'clock at night there, or 10 o'clock at night there. So that's really fantastic. I love it. So at R4, we were introduced, actually, you'll know this, to I think it's called the CMN Champion Child, Children's Miracle Network Champion Child, which I'm used to calling them the Miracle Child. But apparently once you get to a certain level of fundraising, even for them, they become champions. So this young lady that we met, and we met her mom at the on the big stage at R4, and then we met her again in a smaller setting. Man, she could really sing. I didn't know this. But cool thing about Ariel and her mother, I think her mother's name is, I've got it written right here. Let's see, Shakira. They've agreed to be on the podcast. So we're gonna have them on sometime in the near future. Like, we're gonna let her tell her story again, and so all the listeners can hear it. Won't that be cool?
That'll be great. She was just so well spoken when you think about a child that's on a stage that size. So she's going to do great on a podcast. She has an incredible story.
And her personality is so likable. Like, she's just you literally wouldn't know. Like, it's interesting to me, Ashley, this is the first Children's Miracle Network child, because they pick one child, Lawton, every year to be there kind of on their postcard, and so that we can promote one child rather than this nebulous, hey, we save all children story. So normally I'm used to that child being someone who has had a birth defect or premature or maybe leukemia, something like that. But this is the first one that I remembered that was in an accident. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a tragic car accident, and she was 7 years old when it happened. And now, how old is she, Ashley? Isn't she only 11? Is she 11 or 12?
I thought she was older than that.
Maybe she's a little bit older. Yeah, she talked about her acting career. I'm like, good grief. Like, I haven't done much in my short life, but she's done a lot. So it'll be really neat. Her story is riveting. It is filled with miracles, and just, she's so thankful for what RE/MAX does for her in their fundraising. I did find out an interesting fact too, Ashley, not to toot our horn, but we raised a lot of money for Children's Miracle Network. Our agents did, and our clients did last year. I think to the tune of almost $140,000. Yeah. And I found out that the worldwide multi-office donor champion last year was an operation in Canada that has, I think they have 3,000 agents. So they're 10 times our size, and they gave just under $300,000.
Oh, wow.
We did 140. And how crazy is that? So Mandy's got her mind made up that that's our next thing, right? We're going to, and I mean, I think we should figure out how much we donate per agent. I think that's a really cool number. Like, RE/MAX does production per agent for sales. I think it'd be cool to figure out the donation number per agent, but really proud of that. And I hope you guys will tune in. And I have another guest that will be on later in the season. Her name is Jennifer, and I heard her speak. Lawton, you heard her speak at John Wood's event in Raleigh. Mm-hmm. She's super smart. Like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to stay. Actually, I'm going to need you on that episode.
Not all fed. Got it.
I think I'll ask her one question, and then y'all do all the follow-up, because she's very smart. But she's going to be talking about relationships and the dynamic. It's a little bit of psychology, a little bit of how we do the thing. But I'm excited about that. But Ashley, tell me, what was it like to see the Grand Canyon? Like, you just took a few days after Vegas and did a little trip with your sister. You don't have to talk about family dynamics, because I know that can be. But what was the Grand Canyon like? Was it as amazing as I thought?
Yes, it's, until you're standing there, you can't describe it to anybody. So, which is what I've always heard. And it did not disappoint, that's for sure. So my sister and I had a fantastic trip. We got a rental car from Vegas and drove to the Grand Canyon. I thought I was driving west. Turns out I was driving east. I need to do better on studying geography time before I take a trip like that. And here's the other highlight. On the way, we stopped at a little town called Oatman, Arizona, where there are wild donkeys roaming around, and they're just standing on the porches of all the shops, and you pet them and feed them. And my sister and I are huge animal lovers. We loved it so much that the first night we got there is already dusk, and the whole town had shut down at 6 p.m. And we rerouted our trip and stayed at a Holiday Inn close by and went back to see the donkeys in the morning. So Grand Canyon, amazing. Wild donkeys, amazing. Really a fun trip for she and I. And we just kept it simple and went where we wanted to go.
You are such a unicorn, Ashley. Like only you. I mean, how many one-liners are there in that story?
I know.
Yeah, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night, right?
Yeah.
Just to see the donkeys. And that's a long way to pet some jackasses. Also, that's kind of funny, Ashley. That's pretty cool.
Well, it was 40 minutes off the main road. So we invested twice an hour and a half off route to like see wild asses.
And it was worth every penny.
Absolutely. And most of my pictures are donkeys from the trip.
I can't wait to see. You should bring someone to the show. We have a guest here that has said hello, Corey. Corey, I don't know Corey, but Corey, hello. Glad you're here. I don't know if we've met you. I might have met you at Vegas. I'm not sure. We did a lot of things in Vegas that we hadn't talked about yet. Because what happens in Vegas apparently doesn't stay in Vegas because Corey's here. Lawton, you ended up your basketball season since we talked. We are getting to the real estate talk in just about 5 seconds, but I hadn't seen these guys in a few days. I wanted to catch up. Lawton, basketball season's over, right?
Yep, we lost in the second round of the state playoff, but it was probably, a deserving. The team was better than us, so you got those sometimes where it's kind of what you deserve in a good way. I mean, it's as far as we were going to get, but it's a fun time. We got to be in states and experience it, so that was fun. But yeah, now everybody's taking a break from being in the gym every night.
Nice, and you can rededicate yourself to real estate.
Yeah,
like you weren't already dedicated. And congratulations to you and Kristen Lundy on pulling off the miracle of the closing of the year. Congratulations on that. I enjoyed watching that from 3 different angles, so that was fun. But today, so we just sprinkled in a little bit of AI with Tyler. We're going to go back to that some more because we're talking about, you really can't see it because I need to change this banner because it looks bad. Let me hold on 1 second and see if I can pull this off. Try this. Nope, you just can't. I got to get it in a different spot, but I can't. Anyway, this is season 8, and it's called The Agent of the Future. I think it's worse over there. I'll put it back over here. Look how talented I am just on the fly. Agent of the Future. So Agent of the Future makes us think AI, which we certainly have started to talk about, and we're going to talk more practically about that. We actually are going to bring a couple of other people on here and dig in a little bit more about what Lawton and Ashley use on a regular basis. But today, what we wanted to talk about, and I think, Ashley, you shared this as an initial idea back in December when we started talking about topics, that agents don't think like clients, customers' clients, or customers' clients don't think like agents. And I think this is a fascinating thing to dive into, and it won't be fun unless we have some interaction from the audience. Like, I want you guys to pipe in and see tell us if you agree or disagree on that, this topic. But Ashley, can you remember bringing this up? Do you remember putting this in as an idea? Can you, broad strokes, just tell me what was in your mind when I asked you, what's a good thing to talk about in this season of Agent of the Future? Can you give us broad strokes about what you were thinking?
Yeah, so I get this unique seat in the company where I have a lot of interaction with agents who are boots on the ground, and I assist them with what is their audience and their message that they want to get out when they're doing marketing. And so often we have this concept as agents that people already understand 5 steps ahead of what they truly understand, because we live and breathe this industry day in and day out. And sometimes we need to understand that our audience that we're speaking to, they dabble in real estate every 5 to 7 years. We do it every single day. And there's just some simple shifts that I've picked up on through lots of conversations with agents. So, for instance, if you're meeting with a seller about pricing their home, when you go in and you share, we all in real estate say we're going to share the comps with you. Okay. And here's what has sold. Here's the solds page. That's all real estate lingo. So I want to come in and say, I want to just give you an update on what's happening in the market and what has already closed, because that tells us what buyers are saying yes to. And we need to make our decisions on information that we understand about what buyers are saying yes to. So instead of giving them a list of solds, let's write on the top of that piece of paper, this is what buyers are saying yes to. So that's kind of a part of where it came from, just simple little shifts in how you're presenting information to meet the consumer with what they really need to hear, to put their fears at rest and to give them guidance and for them to see you as the expert to help them through that.
So I think the foundation of it, and Lawton, you'll be able to shed a interesting perspective on this, because you went from being a layperson to diving right into the organization, to the profession, the industry, like overnight, kind of like you were a college student and now you're a real estate expert. So you'll be able to shed some light on it. But I think it comes foundationally from the idea that we do it every minute of every day, and the client customer does it once. I mean, if you're conservative, once every 5 years. If you're not conservative, once every 7 to 8 years. Statistics would show. So can you either of you guys think of another environment where you're in the room with someone and they're talking a language that you don't understand? I mean, I'm in rooms like that all the time, to be frank. But what about for you guys? Can you think of another situation that you run into?
Doctor's office,
Okay.
investment account planning, like these things that just feel like there's people that are such experts that have devoted years of training and schooling, and I don't understand enough to even get started.
Anything else you want to add, Lawton? Any other environment you can think of?
No, I was going to say the dentist office because I feel like people might do that less than 5 to 7 times. I mean, 5 to 7 years. So, but I mean, sometimes when I'm sitting there and the numbers and all the stuff they're calling out about which teeth have problems, I don't know what's going on. But
That's a good one. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything. And I think, Ashley, didn't you tell me you like the dentist or no?
Oh,
No. Okay. I don't think there's anything that strikes fear in the hearts of anyone than the dentist. And my dentist is a remarkable salesperson. Like every time I go in there, I got something major that's right around the corner. And that's not the topic of today's show, but it is just and they market like crazy. Like if I miss my appointment, I got a text, you're 4 months overdue. I'm like, listen, this is not about guilt. Like I don't need to hear that every month. I don't need you to tell me next month I'm 5 months overdue, because it makes me hate you worse. But you're right. Doctor's offices are a good one for when we go in a doctor's office. Imagine if doctors only talked in medical terms, and some do, but when you go to a doctor that can kind of put it on your level, it makes you feel better, doesn't it?
yeah.
Because even the healthy terms, even if you're really healthy, they can put it in terms that make you feel really sick. Using the words they use. But what does this disconnect cause? Like you have client over here with one idea, and you got agent over here with another idea. What disconnect, and then what emotion do each of these parties feel? What does it make an agent feel when there's that disconnect?
Well, can I tell you an amazing story about going to see my doctor recently?
Yes, please do. I like amazing stories.
Yeah. So as you get older, sometimes, you get your blood work back and they tell you you need to eat better and exercise more and all the things. And there wasn't anything terribly wrong. But as she goes through this information with me, what I loved was that the doctor looked at me and said, listen, this number is a little bit high. This is not a moral shortcoming because of something you did. Let's just talk about why it's important to make a change and what those changes are. And I don't know how she could read that off of me, but sometimes you feel that when I know that I don't eat great, so this is my fault that this has happened. So her communicating to me in that way was huge. And I think that's the insight that I would love to help agents understand is explaining to people, maybe you meet somebody and their credit isn't fantastic. And you say, listen, I see this all the time. Everybody needs a little bit of help to figure out how to get to the number they need to be at so that we can accomplish this goal. Let's just talk about what our next step is. You didn't do anything wrong. What if we told them that? Now they have so much trust in you. So that was like a great example that happened to me recently, I think, as we're comparing this to doctors or other professionals.
That's great. Here's a small quiz for anybody that wants to participate. And Dylan, I see that you're out there. I see that you're out there. Any of you guys have questions for us, even if they're like lightning round questions, like what's Lawton's favorite food? You just dive in and show us and put it on the screen and answer it. What is the character trait that doctor described or personified to you in that moment? What is that called? What she or he did?
I think it's empathy, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
So. I'm not sure.
That's the word I was thinking, because she basically said, "Hey, she said without saying, I feel where you're coming from. I feel what you're feeling. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just explain to you. It's not this, it's this." And she was, I don't know how she even read it on you, but that's a pretty cool thing. Lawton, have you had any situations in real estate where you've had to use empathy where you really couldn't necessarily relate, but you felt like you needed to relate, and so you put on your empathy hat? Do you ever get to do that as an agent?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to do that, like with every deal. Maybe there's a random outlier that is someone that genuinely doesn't show any emotions because they're investing, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But most of the time there's emotions involved. And I think when there's emotions involved, you have to try to put yourself in their shoes. Even if, I was just working with someone that was a 70-year-old widow, a female. Like, I have nothing in common with them, but I have to be able to put myself in their shoes, or I'm not going to understand why certain things stress them out, or certain things worry them, or certain things don't worry them. Right. So, putting yourself in that act of putting yourself in their shoes as much as you can, I think, is what really makes some agents succeed more than others. Yeah.
You want to give a shout out to a lender while we're on here, just for the miracle, the rabbit they pulled out of the hat? You don't have to give details, but you want to give a shout out?
Yeah.
Hey, Carrie, good to see you, Carrie. You're always here. Honestly, we appreciate you. Throw questions if you got them.
Since I've started, I kind of, we have Revolution Mortgage around us all the time. So I just started with them, and they asked me when I first sent a deal to them, why did you use us? And I said, honestly, because you're the first person that I met. But now that's not the case, because every lender wants to meet every agent. But I continue to send people to them because of the professional work they do. Basically, we were great up until the day before closing. I get a phone call. Hey, Lon, just letting you know, financing pretty much fell through, but we have a plan B. So I'm just going to start working on that. I've already told everybody. You don't have to worry about telling anybody. We'll let you know when it's figured out. We'll knock it out. And then that happened. And then it was like the next morning, got a text, hey, we're clear to close. That's what we do. And I've worked with lenders that would not approach it that way, and it would have been all my fault somehow. So it's definitely a breath of fresh air and a stress relief to have someone like that to work with.
Yeah. So you had the buyer, and it was dire straits. You don't want to hear not approved the day before closing or whatever, or even the week before, 3 weeks before. So kudos to Revolution for pulling the rabbit out of their hat. It's great to have partners like that, and it's cool that, it's like first name basis. He just calls you and says, hey. And I love when people come to you with a problem and there's already a solution. That is the way to do it. If you're taking notes on how to be a great lender, how to be a great attorney, how to be a great real estate agent, if you have a problem, don't call your client until you've already thought of 3 or 4 solutions. And if you can already figure one out, like Ed did on that situation, I think that's pretty cool. So here we have this gap, this perspective gap. Carrie, we're talking about the gap between how clients think and how we think. Now, why are we why are we talking about this though? Like, and I wanted to ask, how do you think the agent feels frustrated because they kind of inherently expect the client to feel like they feel, or know what they know, or expect what they expect, and the client feels embarrassed, or I mean, you know how you feel when you go to trivia night and they ask a question and everybody's like, "Oh, I got that one," and you're like, "I have never in my life heard of that before." You feel embarrassed isn't that right, Lawton? It actually can't you see how a client can feel? And what does embarrassment do? It shuts you down. Like they're not going to be open. Talk to me about how you think those emotions play together. You got embarrassment on one side, and you got like frustration, confusion. Like, why don't you get it on the other side? How does that help with negotiations? Paint the picture for me. Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I feel like,
Take it.
yeah, I feel honestly, I experience more frustration from both sides more than I do embarrassment. But I think that's probably the front-facing emotion that came from the embarrassment they're feeling, partly. Um, but in the same way, I'm going to, in a moment of frustration, think, why don't you understand this? They're going to be thinking, why didn't you explain it to me? Right? And the whole reason real estate agents get paid is to explain these things to someone who doesn't deal with them every day, right? It's the only reason we go to a lawyer or a doctor, or like it's something we're not a professional in, so we need the help, right? Um, so I see frustration more than anything, and it obviously doesn't help, when you have to go to your client and have a conversation about what came from a home inspection, or hey, what do you want to negotiate for repairs, right? They're automatically going to feel like you're not even on their side, when in reality, like, that's the only side I am on, right? So it definitely doesn't help in negotiations.
Yeah. Ashley, were you going to share something?
Well, I agree with everything that Lawton was just talking about, and he mentioned the home inspection report. So this, to me, is something great that an agent can do to ease that feeling that a buyer or seller may have. We have an inspection report somewhere in our email that we can take all the personal details off. So we can take the address and the name of the person and the company and the picture of the front of the house so that it's anonymous, and just prepare them with it before they ever get under contract. Hand them an 80-page report and say, when we get this back from your inspection, no matter which side, whether they're the seller that's going to have to read all that stuff about their house that they love and have so much pride in, or whether they're the buyer who's going to have to look at a report and go, oh my gosh, is this about to crumble to the ground? It's 80 pages long. Give it to them ahead of time before there's any like emotional tie. Now, when you talk about, we're going to have an inspection, we're going to get an inspection report. Immediately, we visualize an inspection report as an agent. A consumer has no idea what an inspection report looks like unless they remember theirs from 5, 7, 10, 12 years ago. So give it to them early and just say, here's an example one. It's this many pages. The first 2 pages were the summary. I've circled all the things on my last transaction that were requested to get fixed, and I put a check mark next to the ones that were fixed. So they see, we're going to get this long list. We're going to choose what's important. And from there, we're going to end up with even a little bit less than that the other side is going to agree to. And that's a win. And we all can just move forward with this purchase or with this sale. So I think that is a great tool for agents to put in their back pocket and start using.
Yeah, it makes it, it's still going to suck when they get theirs. Let's be honest. They're still going to get defensive and be mad and, the buyer's going to want everything fixed. Seller's going to be like, my house is perfect. But if you've given them you can then say, hey, we talked about this. Let's remember, right? Because you're damage mitigating. It's almost like like in medicine, you can prevent, like what you had a conversation with your doctor about. Now you're talking about correction rather than prevention. This is prevention, what we're talking about here. Well, being able to, and we're going to talk about a few things that real life examples like that people get frustrated about. And then we're going to give some solutions, like some best practices at the end about what you can do in your business to help with this whole thing. But I love that example of thinking of where are the hurdles going to be and how can I help them get over them before? Do you do anything like that? Not to put you on the spot, but do you explain to them what this is going to be like when they have an inspection?
Yeah, a lot of the times, I mean, I obviously already know whether or not they've bought a house recently and what they're expecting and gonna understand when they get it. So if it's someone that's bought a house really recently, or I know they have, even if it's in another state, I know they know what an inspection report is, right? So we maybe don't have to start from ground zero, but I will, after we look through the house and they're thinking about making an offer, I obviously one of the biggest things I explain is due diligence and termination fee and inspections and stuff like that. And I always preface, hey, I just want to let you know, even though this is a 1-year-old house, you're going to get an inspection report back that's at least 50 pages, and everything's going to be wrong with this house, just so you know, going into it. And then I know this is a guy who's a handyman. He's not worried about a nail pop or something like that. But I also know, and I'm going to tell them, listen, I just had an inspection report last week that 4 pages of it were from cracks in the driveway. We're not going to get that approved to get fixed, right? We're not going to, there's certain things that we're just not going to. So I don't go as far, or I haven't yet, as putting something actually in an email and sending it for them to look through. But I do preface, like, again, if it's a buyer, this whole house is going to be falling to shambles when you get this inspection report, but you see that it's not, right? But it's definitely way better to do that than the first couple deals that I maybe didn't do that as good as I could have. And then they get sent the report and you're looking over at the same time. And then you have to explain and calm them down from wanting to just throw everything away.
Yes. And I love the idea that you're asking and finding out. I love this question. When's the last time you purchased a home? When's the last time you went through this process? Because if it was a year ago, it's way different than even 3 years ago or 5 years ago. Or this is my retirement home. I haven't bought one since I paid my other house off. Right. Then you're talking about a whole nother thing. And keep in mind, since we're talking about inspectors have a job. I don't think they feel like they've done their job if they come back with a blank report, in my opinion. Like, I just think they're gonna fine tooth comb it, and that's what you want as a buyer. It's not what you want as a seller. It is. Like, Ashley did a pre-inspection on her home before she sold it, and I think that's brilliant for the seller to do it. And you have to have an inspector that you trust, of course, and a person that's not going to blow up a deal. But if you get a good one and you get a good seller inspection, it can cover a lot of ground, can it, Ashley? And I don't know if it makes a buyer feel like they don't need to get one at all, but I think it does help. Did it help for you?
It helped tremendously. So what was the most helpful is that when I got that report, I hired a plumber and electrician all wrapped into one that was licensed, bonded, insured, because I needed that for the work to get done, and said, off of this list, I want these 15 things taken care of. When can you come to my house and do them? And then when the buyer came into the picture and submitted an offer, I gave them the entire report, but I also gave them the list and said, here's what's already been repaired. Turns out they didn't ask me for anything else. So I got to decide what I wanted to tackle as far as the fixes, and they felt like the other things that were left over, they would handle, one bit at a time.
Yeah. I just did a video this morning, Lawton, on behaviors and motivators, like motivation of people and how they behave. And when negotiating or when talking about these things, is it different? And this is a generality, of course. Don't hold me over the flames, listeners. Rise Up Nation when I say this. If you have an engineer in your car or in the living room, nobody puts them in their car anymore. Or you have an artist, is it different? Like,
yeah, I definitely think it's definitely different because it's a difference of tolerance of what they can or want to fix on their own. And at least in those two examples, one person's going to be way more concerned about maybe cosmetic things that an engineer is not going to care at all about. So, I mean, those are very broad generalizations, but there's definitely a difference. And you should know that about your client, hopefully before, at least to some extent, before you get all this back. And knowing, like, I just had a deal where I knew there's a couple leaks in the attic, but it wasn't like the whole roof was falling apart. It was like a screw that needed to be sealed. Well, this guy knew he was a roofer, so he obviously wanted it to be addressed, and it's still some negotiating power when you get to that point. But it wasn't something that he was going to run away from. There's other people that I've worked with that if they saw that would have been like, no way, let's find another house. So you do have to know that going into it.
Yeah, termites. Have you ever heard that word before, Lawton? Termites.
I'm telling you, I think probably 40% of the deals that I've closed have termites or had in the past 30 days, it feels like. But
Yeah, I'm going to give a relationship tip. Nobody asked for it, but I'm going to give you one because it parlays with what we're talking about here. So we were in Vegas. Every time we're in Vegas, we like to shop a little bit. Shopping doesn't mean you buy a whole bunch of stuff, but every once in a while, Mandy likes jewelry and purses, and I want her to buy some jewelry and purses. Now, judge me if you want to, whatever, right? Because these are things she loves. But I can tell you, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt when we walk in a store whether she's going to buy something or not before she ever looks at one item. And it is 100% dependent on how the salespeople act because they don't know my wife and they don't know that she doesn't like to be asked 100 questions. She'd rather be left alone. She's a savvy shopper. They don't take the time to know who she is. Sometimes she doesn't even know this. Sometimes I'll go in the store before her and say, okay, you have a buyer that's getting ready to walk in here. She loves your product, but I'm telling you, if you're better off if y'all just all walk to the back of the store and let her do her thing. You can say, hey, welcome, but don't say if she needs help. Don't say, hey, I like your watch. I like your ring. I love your belt, whatever. Just give her space. That is exactly how you're talking about real estate clients. And I love the fact that we are in what's called right now a skill-based environment versus a speed-based environment. Ashley, you remember the speed-based environment. Lawton hasn't experienced that yet. But back then, you didn't have time to get to know anybody. It was just all you just had to figure out how to get the thing done, right? And a lot of people, look at Dylan, love you, man. I hear you. Yeah, I can relate to that. Just stand back and watch the whole thing happen. In a speed environment where it's all about how do you get the deal finished, get them under contract quick, but you don't get to know people. Like right now, you have a beautiful opportunity, in my opinion. Dylan, I'm glad you're here. Beautiful opportunity to get to know about a person. And here's what I think is cool about that. What happens when you really get to know somebody? If you're in a speed-based environment and it's like wham, bam, the deal's over, they're in a house they like or don't like, and you're on to the next one. What doesn't happen in that environment happens in a skill-based environment. Another question for the audience. It's not empathy. But you answered the first one. The relationship, referral business, future business, all those things happen when you take the time to get to know these people. And it's empathy. It's asking good questions. It's caring. Like Lawton, why would Lawton care? I know him. He doesn't care about a 70-year-old widow because he thinks he's going to get something out of it. He cares about a 70-year-old widow because of what she is going to get out of it, right? And that relationship that you have the time to build. Like I say this quite often and people laugh. If you don't like people, this is not the right environment because you have to get to know some people. Let me share anything you guys want to say before I read a couple sentences I want to get your opinion on.
No, go ahead.
Any questions from the audience? You guys are so quiet today, but that's okay because we talk a lot. You guys are hungover from Vegas, I guess. Agents think in speed, efficiency, risk management, contracts, equity. Those are words that agents are thinking about. Consumers are thinking about, in most cases, safety, affordability, fear of mistakes, and emotion. What do y'all think about the differences in those two words or those two groups of words? It's quite different.
They're different terms for some of the same, I don't know what the right word is. They're just feeling differently about the same items that on the same checklist. They're feeling differently about the same checklist. Maybe that's the words that I'm trying to get to here. It's kind of how I look at that. And, I love to be able to look at data and understand what's happening. So we recently did a value proposition class here at the office. I've done it twice, but I think that I want to go ahead and do it a couple more times. And I took the NAR buyer and seller home profile report, right? National Association of Realtors sends that out. By the way, stay away from acronyms when you're talking with clients. I just did it. I said NAR. If we have people on here who aren't in the industry, they don't know what NAR is, National Association of Realtors. They put together data about what buyers and sellers profiles are currently. And so I put that into ChatGPT and I said, I want to make sure that I'm using the right words, that I'm putting value into my marketing, into my conversations. Tell me what the fears are, or behaviorally, what are buyers and sellers like according to this data? And so it gave that list of fears, which was exactly what you just read off right there, Tad, and helped me work through what's the opposite of that so that I can come into this conversation with calmness and help them just understand the next step. So agent of the future, take those reports, right? Put them in and extract the real life scenarios. And then how can we help the best way possible?
Yeah, people that were in that class were lucky. And if anybody listening wants to be connected to that, reach out to Ashley, and she can help you with that. You're so smart, Ashley, because no wonder you're good at what you do. And I mean that sincerely, because what I was looking for was the same circumstance causes almost polar emotions in the two groups of people. Like a home inspection for us is routine. A home inspection for a buyer is panic, or for a seller is offensive. And we have to, you're oozing empathy. Like everything you said was spot on. You have to be able to understand that the circumstance is going to cause sometimes polarizing responses. And the hard part is, if you're like Lawton, sometimes people just go, they don't talk a lot like me. Like if I get upset, I'm going to tell you. Lawton might not tell you. Your client might not speak up and say, I'm really panicked about this, or I'm really worried. You might be assuming that their silence is comfort and acceptance when it actually might be panic and I'm out of here. Am I right? Because look at Lawton's like,
yes.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to make your point right now. I love that. Any questions from the audience? What color socks does anybody have on? Ashley, were you going to say something?
Well, obviously I did. I talked on this for a whole hour for one of the classes that we did. But, we heard more about it at R4 also. We had a speaker that went through what's the biggest reason why people buy a house. So when we're talking about agents, even looking at who they're speaking to as far as their audience goes for marketing. So we're not like in the deal. We're not in the contract. We're just, how are we going to reach the right people to let them know that we are the best humans possible to help them with this huge financial investment during their life? How many times do you see marketing online that just talks about buying power, where the interest rates are going, it's increasing your buying power? Well, number one, I don't think buying power is always a term that resonates with the person who has 3 kids and they're trying to figure out where they're going to move. Like they're not thinking buying power. They're thinking about what satisfies what my family needs. So shifting the words that we use. But when you find out that one of the number one reasons that people want to get into home ownership, it's not about buying power, and it actually wasn't about wealth building, which is what we talk to all the time. We always say, start building equity, get in now, your appreciation is going to be this. Instead, the people that were buying houses for the first time, they wanted something that was their own, that they could make changes to because they've only rented before. So where are the agent conversations that lead with, I understand how you feel. Look at the 3 ways this living room could look, and use AI to mock up a living room 3 different ways. Do you want to be able to put your own stamp on something that's yours? Like that is who we need to talk to. That's what the messaging that we need to get across. But we only can know that if we get in and look at the reports for what what is important to our consumers? How can we help them the best? We need to understand what it is that they're saying on all these great reports that NAR does for us.
And it's interesting where AI gets the information, because I ask it sometimes, like for this discussion, like where do we go? And AI can go to social media forums or coaches' comments and forums where agents are having discussions about what they're frustrated and fearful about, or consumers can go there. So you're getting real data. It's not just some man behind the curtain or woman behind the curtain who's coming up with an idea of what they feel like might be happening. These are from real conversations. I want to try two things with you, Ashley. Do you have the ability to move your head up on the screen a little bit? I learned something in a speaker conference that I went to. No, well, can you move your screen a little bit? Like tilt it more. There you go. So I learned this thing, like when you can see more of someone's shoulders, you feel more connected to them when they're talking. It's not just their head. Really works. Like I feel like you're more open right now, which is really cool. And I wanted to try this too. Let me try this.
I just feel bad because I forgot the podcast uniform today. I have made a note to now wear my T-shirt moving
forward. Actually a beautiful color shirt that you have on. We needed some color. But I want to try this. I'm going to try this applause after that great comment that you made, see if it works. I've never done this before. So listeners, I'm sorry if this is terrible. Did you hear that?
That was fantastic.
If Lawton ever decides to talk, I might do this. Man, this is more fun than I ever imagined I would have today. So great points. Let's talk about real quickly before we go. I wanted to throw out a couple things. Home inspection was one thing on my list. Price reductions is another one that we could talk about probably for a whole episode, about how, as a listing agent, you set that up. Realize that for price reductions, the agent is thinking, I'm trying to adjust you to the market. It's not personal at all. But the seller is thinking, what's wrong with my house? I am failing. We're not doing a good job. And you see how different that is? And if the agent doesn't recognize the emotion in that for the seller, and my opinion, like Lawton does, discuss it before it ever happens, then you're going to have an issue. Another thing is, I didn't think about this one, but slow response. Let's say a client reaches out to you as an agent, and you don't get back to, you say, hey, let's talk about that tomorrow. And sometimes that's necessary, but early on in a relationship, if you say, hey, I'm going to call you first thing in the morning. Is that good? For you, you're thinking tomorrow is fine. You are so important. I'm just real busy right now. I'm going to get to you tomorrow. What's the client thinking? That person might be too busy for me. I might have made the wrong choice. So especially early on in a relationship with the client or customer, even, that if you don't, that's why they say now the response time is so critical. And I think you probably feel the same way if you put your consumer hat on when you're shopping for anything online or whatever else. You want speed of response. You want them to, it's weird. We want them to respond, but we don't want them to bother us. Good luck with that balance. I don't know how you do it. Let's talk about what we can do since we're wrapping up here. What can we do with this? Like, practically speaking, how can you help with this disconnect? I think we all agree that there's probably different mindsets of agents. I wanted to throw out a couple things, and you guys throw out some too. What do you think of these? Lawton, one of the things was explain everything 2 times. Do you feel like you're repeating yourself a lot when you're with customers and clients?
Yeah, but I think I should. I mean, I think at a minimum 2 times, and in my head that would be once before anything's ever happened, and then twice when it happens. You say, hey, we talked about this before already. Here it is, right? Whether that's a price reduction or a home inspection, or, hey, I might not respond to you as quick on Sundays if that's something that you set for yourself, like whatever that might be, or after 6 o'clock with your family, like whatever it is. Telling that beforehand, and then say you have a client that's like, hey, why on earth did you not respond to my text at 8 p.m. on Sunday? And you can say, hey, well, we talked about this beforehand, like that's kind of set aside for another part of my life. So yeah, I think, at a minimum, once before anything happens, and twice. Jeremy's a great example of this. He has that conversation with him before they even decide to work with him as an agent, right? For a purchase, he's going to tell you, hey, you're probably not going to be able to get a hold of me on Sundays that well, right? If it's an emergency, okay. But if not, and he sets that beforehand, then he probably doesn't have that issue with clients very often because they've already decided it. So I think twice is a minimum, but I think it's a good starting point.
Actually, I always wondered what it would be like. I don't have a brochure handy, but I wondered what it would be like if we just flew back and forth to Vegas. What's the first thing they do once they get you loaded on the plane and get ready to push back from the gate? They go through the safety instructions, right? They'll go through this. I mean, we could all recite it in our heads. Like if in a loss of pressure, the mask will fall from the ceiling. Put it on your neighbor before you put it on yourself. We all know these things, but you know what is the first thing they do when there's a crisis? They have to explain it all again. Because why? Because we are panicked now and we forget everything they've told us. Well, why did they tell us in the beginning? Well, to get our minds ready to hear it the second time. And it's not much different than this. And that's why we've talked about this already. You pre-frame every major step. You should be, in my opinion, looking at your process. Since we're in a skill-based environment, looking at your process, like Ashley was just describing in Long 2, make sure that you have taken the time to say, this is something that's going to be major. Maybe it's pre-qualification. Maybe it's home inspection. Maybe it's price reductions. Maybe it's multiple offers, whatever it might be. Talk about it beforehand. And then my favorite one, I'm going to end on this, and I'll let you guys have closing remarks if you want to about this. Slow down. I think that's probably my weakness. But slow down with your customers and clients. Why in the world would you do that? Like, what good does that do? Ashley, you nodded your head when I said it.
I think it gets you to be an active listener, to hear what each person needs from you. And we have an agenda that we want to get through in the most efficient amount of time. And sometimes we forget to hear what the person is actually sharing.
Yeah, because silence doesn't always mean agreement. Silence sometimes means, it could mean disagreement. It could mean confusion. It could mean changing their mind. I mean, there's a lot of things, but if you don't give them time to be silent and you don't get their vibe and you don't figure out why they're doing certain things. And I think the only way to do that, and actually I'll say this about you and Lawton, I feel like I've known both of you. I've known Lawton for a long time. I've known both of you for a long time. I've never felt rushed by either one of you, but I bet you don't have to share this. I bet both of you have felt rushed by me. Because there's times in the office where, because I'm a certain personality type and I'm trying to please everyone and I'm trying to get a lot of touches done in conversations, that I move along too fast. I might say, "Hey, how you doing?" And do I really mean that? Like, I'm not slow enough with the touches. And I think if you can master that as an agent, that's when the relationship happens. You don't get paid for the relationship. You don't get a check because of it. You don't get to necessarily check a box it's not like a cold call check or I sent a handwritten note, but when you take the time to build the relationship, that's where, and to slow down, that's when the relationship happens. And that's when I think all of the business flows from that in this environment anyway. So today's topic, you saw it. We don't think like our clients. Actually, I really love this. Is such a overlooked thing. I think it takes a lot of self-awareness for our listeners to stop for a minute and say, how am I in this area? Lawton, how do you think you are with this? Do you feel like you understand that you guys think differently before this?
I think I understand that. I think it's something that I'm still getting better at. I think I've always understood it because my whole life I've been very aware of other people and what they're thinking or feeling. But learning how to be that way personality wise, but then be able to explain things as still a professional, and finding the balance in, you have to be assertive sometimes and you have to talk about things that you know way more about, but knowing how to explain those in a way that I would want someone to explain them to me, I think is something that I'm still continuously learning. I think most people probably are still learning, or you should be.
Yeah, excellent. Ashley, do you have any closing remarks?
I think an exercise that would be really attainable for any agent to work on would be to just ask a friend who's not in real estate, or a parent or a sibling, and just say, can I have an hour of your time? Let's go through a pretend scenario of you buying or selling a house, and ask me the questions that you don't understand, and then be honest with me about, did I explain that well, or am I using too much real estate jargon? Do I need to meet you at a different level? What is it that feels scary to you? What is it that feels exciting to you that I need to make sure I get excited about? And sit with somebody outside of this industry and almost break the process that you have right now, right? Try to break it apart and then rebuild it using the information. Like, we can learn this one transaction at a time and it'll be painful lessons, or we could get a close friend or family member and kind of interview them, and probably really find some areas that we could set expectations better. Is one of my favorite sayings that I've learned from all of you, Mandy, Rennie, is that conflict only arises when expectations differ, and I will avoid conflict at any and all cost. So I am always trying to lay on expectations better.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Great conversation today. I'll end it with empathy builds trust better than expertise. Empathy builds trust better than expertise. I think if we can figure out how to be empathetic, how to understand these frustrating people that we're with because they think about us. And I love the idea that you just shared about sitting with someone outside, maybe even record yourself and then listen to it back, or let your 12-year-old listen to it back and explain to you what you just said. I think they said 5th grade levels where we all need to land. So my daughter is 10 and she's in the 5th grade. So Hadley needs to understand what we're talking to these clients and customers about in the way that we relate to them. So great conversation, Ashley. Thank you for leading us to this. I'm not sure what next week's episode will be yet, because I've got 2 different options, 2 different ways we could go. I do have a topic chosen, but we may have a special guest next week instead. But Rise Up Nation, I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, this will be a podcast next Monday on all your favorite podcast channels. And if there's anything we can do for you, if you want to reach out to Ashley about this class that she taught, or if you need to buy or sell, you can reach out to Lawton. I'm just kidding. We appreciate all that you do. Appreciate your being here, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks for being here, Ashley and Lawton. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Tad.
Yeah.